Pe parcursul anilor, parteneriatul dintre Republica Moldova și Carolina de Nord a avut o evoluție firească. Chiar dacă în aceste procese au fost antrenați foarte mulți oameni cu cele mai diferite ocupații, parteneriatul a generat noi domenii de interes pentru ambele părți. Farmaceutica este preocuparea intrată de curând pe harta parteneriatului moldo-american.
The initial partnership, at least with UNC, was with the School of Dentistry, and we became aware of that at the School of Pharmacy, got connected with Moldova mostly through the School of Dentistry. And then we had established this Global Pharmacy Scholars Program already in other countries, started out in Malawi, Africa, where I also have done work in the past. Our program was growing, and we saw an excellent opportunity to partner with Moldova and the School of Pharmacy there to offer an opportunity for our students to travel over for a 4-week experience where they did mostly clinical work in pharmacies and hospitals, but also there with the School of Pharmacy. And that also allowed us to develop relationships with the faculty at the School of Pharmacy as well in Moldova.
Specialiștii farmacologi din Republica Moldova la acea perioadă aveau nevoie de o nouă impulsionare. Era foarte importantă experiența altor specialiști din alte țări. De aceea, inițiativele venite din Carolina de Nord au fost foarte ofertante și au picat în cel mai potrivit moment.
2-3 ml plătești și transferă în balon cotat, pentru că altfel nu se primește. Noi facem dozare, noi determinăm cantitativ, nu? Eu am adăugat parteneriatul cu colegii noștri de la Școala de Farmacie din Chapel Hill, Școala de Farmacie Eshelman din Carolina de Nord. De fapt, este ultimul parteneriat care rulează la Universitatea de Medicină și Farmacie Nicolae Testimițanu. Noi am început să colaborăm, începând de fapt cu anul 2013, la inițiativa colegilor din Carolina de Nord. Deci colegii de la Facultatea de Farmacie de acolo au venit cu această inițiativă de a ne întâlni, de a începe colaborarea și mai întâi, evident că am început online, prin intermediul mail-urilor, să ne cunoaștem unul pe altul, după care s-a decis organizarea unei vizite a unei delegații din Carolina de Nord la noi la facultate, cu suportul administrației universității, cu suportul Departamentului de Relații Internaționale. Prima delegație a fost în anul 2014, în luna aprilie. De fapt, de aici a pornit pentru că online s-a pregătit vizita respectivă și în componența a 3 persoane, Diren Tacher, conducătorul acestei delegații, împreună cu doamna profesor Pamela Joent, care era responsabilă de stagiile de practică, și domnul David Stip.
First trip really was just a needs assessment. We were looking to learn more about the country, the people, the opportunities in pharmacy, and areas that our school could actually make a difference in a mutually beneficial way with the State University of Medicine and Pharmacy in Chișinău. And some of the things that we learned about on that initial trip in 2014 was that there was a lot of similarities between the country of Moldova and the state of North Carolina. There's a strong need for rural health. Many people across both the state of North Carolina and the country of Moldova lack access to services, to medications. And pharmacists are the medication experts. And so we really united around that common cause of having a rural landscape across both of our countries and our states. So during the first trip in 2014, a strong need from our Moldovan pharmacy colleagues was really training, education, and experience with the curriculum. They would like a lot of help as far as moving from a product-centered approach for pharmacists to a patient-centered approach, and actually engaging more with patients, what we would call here in the US clinical pharmacy. It was a new concept, though, in Moldova, and it was something that we have a strength in. It was an area that we could help. So the next trip, I think, was by our colleague Amanda Corbett, who went over there in 2015 or 2016 to work with the faculty more one-on-one on how they can transform part of their curriculum from more product-centered to more patient-centered to focus on the clinical pharmacy aspect.
Colaborarea a luat un avânt, deoarece pe lângă aceste vizite vreau să zic că au fost organizate multitudini întâlniri online. Noi făceam legătura online prin teleconferință și discutam cu colegii versus curicula universitară. Deci ne-au ajutat mult în acest aspect, pentru că ne-au prezentat în detalii curiculele pe cicluri, pentru că la ei un pic diferă modalitatea de organizare și a anului de studiu și a disciplinelor, cum sunt organizate la ani, dar ne-au povestit de ce fac anume așa și care sunt avantajele unei astfel de organizări. Ne-au ajutat în aspectul că noi am început să privim cu alți ochi curicula noastră și imediat să găsim niște puncte, locuri unde am putea să îmbunătățim ceva, luând din experiența lor atât de bogată. Dacă vorbim despre diferențe, da, sau despre ce ne face să fim diferiți, nu suntem diferiți, ci abordările sunt diferite, deoarece întotdeauna trebuie să fim deschiși spre schimbare. Am aflat lucruri foarte interesante.
The first thing that we focused on were student exchange, and our students have gone there every year since 2014, and we've also hosted students from Moldova here at UNC. I would say it's something that our students enjoy when they go to Chișinău is the focus on pharmacognosy and pharmaceutical botany, really getting into aspects of how do we harness the medicinal power of plants and things around us within nature for the purpose of health. That is not as strong of an area of interest here in the US and something that was very much present in Moldova and Eastern Europe. So we learned more about that. We visited a few local pharmaceutical industries and manufacturing centers, and that was a summary of the main areas that we discussed during our initial trip, and that's what led us to start the student exchange. So when our students go to Chișinău, they spend about half of their time working with faculty. Vice Dean Livia Uncu has been of amazing support to help lead our students when they arrive there. They are paired with a local Moldovan pharmacy student to help with the cultural assimilation in the country. And they also spend quite a bit of time at that medicinal product center where they often pick different plants, herbs, flowers, and natural products, and they work with the local pharmaceutical industry to turn them into medications.
S-a ajuns la acordul de a organiza deplasări, mobilități a cadrelor didactice, mobilități a studenților, atât în procesul de studii, dar în special le-a interesat pe ei pentru stagii de practică. Eu am fost și desemnată și supervisor pentru stagiile lor de practică a studenților care vin aici și să știți că mă impresionează întotdeauna comentariile studenților care absolvesc practica, se duc acasă în Statele Unite și se împărtășesc acolo cu colegii și comentează ce impresie au despre Republica Moldova, despre școala de farmacie de la noi și ce experiență au preluat, până la lacrimi, pentru că apreciază foarte mult, în primul rând, atitudinea noastră față de ele și față de organizarea practicii. Ne străduim să prindem cât mai multe activități, deși ei vin și cu o agendă foarte bine prestabilită, pentru că, de exemplu, în primul an au dorit să vadă farmacia clinică, cum lucrează, în alt an au optat pentru fitoterapie, deci pentru plante, și au rămas extrem de impresionați de faptul cum este predată, de fapt, fitoterapia și plantele medicinale în cadrul disciplinii de farmacognozie, în cadrul disciplinii de botanică farmaceutică.
Fitoterapia și studierea plantelor este de mare interes pentru studenții americani, pentru că experiența moldovenească este una diferită.
First learned of Moldova, admittedly, when it was offered here at the school as an option for an international rotation. So pharmacists, as they're preparing to become pharmacists before they graduate, have to do so many hours of hands-on experience learning how to take care of patients. And one of those options was to do it abroad, and Moldova was offered. I spent about a month there in Moldova learning about pharmacy and pharmaceutical sciences and the pharmaceutical industry. And in in the hospital, in the community, and then sort of the harvesting center where students get hands-on experience handling the natural products that are eventually turned into medicines. So I've always had an interest in learning more about herbal products and natural remedies because my patients also had that interest. And that was what was so attractive about the Moldova rotation, because the pharmacy school there really incorporates that pharmacognosy and herbal and natural products into their clinical education. So the students know about the chemistry and they know how to use them and they know how to recommend them to their patients. We don't get as much of that here in the United States. It's just not as common or as popular in Western medicine. And so I saw that and I said, yes, I must go. I must learn more about this. I was working as a clinical pharmacy practitioner, prescribing medication for patients in North Carolina that had chronic illness like diabetes or high blood pressure. And I found that what I learned in Moldova was so important for how I took care of patients here in North Carolina.
But it was just really a great experience to get to see how pharmacists operate and how their training's different in Moldova compared to what I was used to here in the United States. And I think like my favorite part was getting to go to the gardens and like see all the herbs and like how much the students there learn about all of that, where we get very minimal here.
The gardens were really awesome, and just seeing how they use herbal supplements so much more so than we do. I think more than anything, more than the pharmacy knowledge I gained, it was just the entire like cultural immersion and just learning how pharmacy works in countries other than the US. I think the US tends to be pretty specific in how they do pharmacy versus everybody else.
All my close friends were applying to like Africa and London and Australia, and they were trying to get me to come with them. But the only place I applied was Moldova. But it was because of like you said, the herbal medicine, the alternative medicine, the things that we just don't learn about in school, don't have a class or an elective to take, which would be very cool to change. I think there's a lot of reasons to do this. Like they said, the personal growth, putting yourself in a different atmosphere and an uncomfortable place for an entire month. But also just those relationships that I've built with my Moldovan ladies, that's what I call them. We still are in contact because of the internet, Instagram. They love showing you what they know and they want to know what you know, and so just that back and forth.
Cele două universități au dezvoltat relații de colaborare durabile. Cercetarea științifică pe domeniul farmaceutic a fost impulsionat în beneficiul ambelor instituții.
I think it's incredibly important. It allows you to develop relationships and friendships with people all over the world. Individuals that do the exact same things that I do in Moldova, we do here at University of North Carolina. And so if I have questions, I can reach out to them, and if they have questions, they can reach out to me. And now we have really eternal colleagues whereby we share letters at Christmas and just catching up on family life, all based upon that relationship. So right now, our plans are to continue sending pharmacy students there. We're always open to receiving pharmacy students from Moldova to come spend time here in North Carolina. And we are also open to having more faculty members exchange between the two places.
I think we've had great success with sending some of our students there and hosting a couple students here. I would love to welcome and host more Moldovan pharmacy students here in North Carolina at Chapel Hill. I think it's a great experience for many of them to then take back what they learned and spread it to others. But beyond students, I think a need that's still unmet, that we're still talking about, is how can we partner to bring Moldovan faculty here for training purposes. We were very successful in getting a grant through the Open World program in 2018, in which we hosted 7 or 8 Moldovan pharmacy faculty members from the State University of Medicine and Pharmacy. And during that visit in 2018, they interacted with over 100 pharmacists and pharmacy personnel, both here at the school and at the hospital across our street. And that continued our conversation of we need to find a way to bring somebody from Moldova for 6 months, for a year, to do intensive clinical pharmacy training, to be the first clinical pharmacist to go back to Moldova and train the next generation of healthcare leaders in that country.
Punctul cheie, de fapt, în colaborare a fost când s-a decis organizarea unei vizite a unei echipe de cadre didactice de la noi, de la facultate, în Statele Unite, prin intermediul programului Ambasadei Statelor Unite Open World, deoarece poți să auzi multe, poți să discuți multe, dar dacă nu vezi, misiunea nu este împlinită până la capăt. Această vizită ne-a întors un pic pe dos mentalitatea și a făcut efectul, de fapt. Noi am venit de acolo alți oameni cu alte viziuni în ceea ce privește pregătirea specialiștilor în domeniul farmaciei. Să știți că am văzut că și ei au avut greutăți. Nu se face nimic așa deodată și nimic nu este un succes imediat. Niciodată nu este un succes imediat, de fapt. Și atunci ne-am învățat de la ei cum să fim perseverenți în a ști pas cu pas, pași mici, dar să ajungem acolo unde ne dorim. Ne dorim să performăm și atunci ne învățăm de la colegii noștri, pentru că avem de unde învăța. Deci, facultatea de farmacie, școala de farmacie Eshelman din Chapel Hill este astăzi în ratingul facultăților de farmacie din Statele Unite, este pe primul loc. Deci nu este o oricare facultate de farmacie, ci este prima din Statele Unite. De aceea avem ce învăța și le mulțumim foarte mult pe această cale colegilor de acolo care au depus efort, suflet, inimă și ne susțin. Și întotdeauna vin cu sfaturi și se interesează ce facem, cum facem. Pe parcurs, colaborarea nu a luat sfârșit. Mergem înainte tot cu acele teleconferințe, prin mail-uri, prin rețele de socializare, comunicăm, ne împărtășim cu experiența, dar și cu problemele fiecăruia.
I especially want to thank Vice Dean Livia Uncu and Dean Chibanu for all the hard work that they put into this partnership, and Rector Ian Babi for supporting us. And really, a lot of this effort would not be possible without the local work here in North Carolina. Secretary of State Elaine Marshall, Deputy Secretary of State Rodney Maddox, Laura Siniger, the whole team. It's truly amazing what the Moldova-North Carolina partnership has been able to accomplish, and I think we feel honored that pharmacy is relatively new, but contributing towards that partnership, and we cannot wait to see what the next 5-10 years will bring in this partnership, and we hope we can continue to evolve our relationship as a model for others to follow.
I believe that humans everywhere, they have their best of instincts and then they have their worst of instincts. And partnerships like the one that was created between North Carolina and Moldova, it's an example of the best instincts of humans. Historically, we know why this partnership was created. It was a non-military sort of a partnership between Moldova and North Carolina to really help with the infrastructure and just the public institutions. So we are aware of this broad partnership. As an academic institution and academician, we feel like one of the things we can do, not just for our own state, but for rest of the country and beyond, is to spread our knowledge, to other parts of the world. And Moldova was an obvious destination because there was a long-standing relationship. So I think people, certainly at the university, but across the state, they see. I think they feel a kinship with people from other parts of the world.
Interesele comune, reciproc avantajoase, apropie oamenii și anulează hotarele dintre țări. Iar în acest sens, parteneriatul între Republica Moldova și Carolina de Nord este cel mai bun exemplu. În unul din episoadele anterioare vă relatam despre colaborarea pe dimensiunea sportivă în cadrul parteneriatului dintre Republica Moldova și Carolina de Nord. Dacă în cazul fotbalului totul se întâmpla pe o platformă de egalitate și reciprocitate, baseballul la acea perioadă nu se practica deloc în Republica Moldova. Se crease un loc propice pentru o nouă colaborare.
There was a student in a master's program at one of our universities, at Wake Forest University, and he was a baseball fan. He knew that baseball was very popular in Transnistria in particular, and that he worked out an exchange. Lions Clubs International have a group in Tiraspol, and they were able to get the funding to bring a group of young people, baseball players that were 14, 15 years old, to come to America, and they had home stays in Winston-Salem, and they played Little League teams here, and they had a grand time.
Tânărul care a venit la studii în Carolina de Nord era Vyacheslav Driglov. Încă în Moldova se pasionase de baseball. De aceea, atunci când s-a evit oportunitatea să pună umărul la organizarea unei vizite pentru tinerii sportivi din Tiraspol în Carolina de Nord, Vyacheslav nu a ezitat.
Я был одним из вдохновителей и организаторов первого международного молдо-американского турнира детской лиги бейсбола. И мы решили, что можем при содействии Lions-клубов и при поддержке посольства США в Республике Молдова и секретаря штата Элейн Маршалл организовать данное мероприятие. Дети в районе 13-14 лет с обоих стран встретились бы в Северной Каролине, в Форсайт-Каунти, и смогли бы сыграть в бейсбол, а также молдавские дети смогли бы пожить около 2 недель в семьях аналогичных ребят, аналогичного возраста в Америке. Мы для них придумали отличную культурную программу с посещением столицы города Ралли, посещением футбольных, баскетбольных игр и прочих мероприятий, также посещений. Данная идея была хорошо воспринята и поддержана Барри Леонардом, президентом детской лиги Форсайта Каунти, с которым мы обсудили план реализации данного мероприятия. Разумеется, мы пообщались и с мэром Уинстона Салема, он поддержал эту идею, так же, как и другие члены Alliance и Rotary клубов по обе стороны океана.
We were part of Little League, and Little League in Moldova came and asked us to partner with them. They were going to bring a team of 13 to 18-year-old kids over and participate for a week in North Carolina. So we organized families to be host families to those kids, and they came and stayed a week, and it was really a life-changing experience for all of us, I believe. We had the one team that came, and we hosted for a week. They played at the minor league stadium here in Winston-Salem. Our families hosted the kids in their home.
Rice and Ryan.
In 2014 or 2015, made a visit to Tiraspol, my first, to go to the university to do an opening of an American culture room at the university. And several of those young men came to that lunch that day. One of them is an excellent pitcher that has been optioned by one of our professional baseball teams here. He was an outstanding baseball player and was well noticed by folks here.
Бейсбол в Тирасполе и в Молдавии развивается не только при поддержке местных частных спонсоров, но также и при поддержке посольства США в Республике Молдова. Огромная благодарность бывшему послу в Республике Молдова, а также членам культурной делегации, которые осуществили мечту многих детей и привезли много спортивного оборудования для занятий бейсбола. Так как оборудование достаточно дорогое, его не просто находить в Республике Молдова, а при поддержке посольства была данная возможность и мечта осуществлена.
I also brought with me baseballs, bats, gloves, and went to a youth practice and gave the equipment to the team that was practicing, and they were very thrilled to have some new equipment, and I was delighted to be able to do that. We call this sports diplomacy. You may not be able to speak the same language, but if you play the same game, you do have something in common. You know, baseball is a part of this partnership.
Мне кажется, что нужно развивать подобные контакты. Спортивные, культурные контакты вне разной политики способствуют более хорошему обмену мнениями, а также пониманию с обоих сторон. Поэтому данные виды мероприятий очень успешно по методу народной дипломатии укрепляют наши связи.
I think it's very important. I think our kids that hosted the players from Moldova learned a tremendous amount. Culture, their lifestyle, our lifestyle. It was for me. It was a very life-changing experience to have those kids here, and I'm really blessed to be able to stay in contact with a couple of them and their families even today. So I think it's very important, and I would love it if we could continue that relationship.
Наши молдавские дети с удовольствием восприняли эту возможность, и для многих из них это изменило их будущую карьеру и будущее развитие как профессиональных спортсменов. Многие сейчас выступают в различных лигах, продолжают заниматься бейсболом, кто-то ушел в другой спорт, в копьеметание, но все добиваются хороших результатов. Некоторые дети уехали в Америку, играют уже в американских клубах, учатся в Америке. Я думаю, это был очень хороший пример, который и заложили такую хорошую foundation, хороший фундамент и основания для дальнейших культурных обменов и взаимных связей.